Namaskaram. Hi, Michael. Hi, Ernesto. Today we have a question that says like this. How to deal with periods of spiritual dryness or aridity, and that we have to remember and reinforce, as well as trying to return again and again to oneself. Spiritual dryness is characterized by listlessness and apathy, by a lack of devotion and fervor, by a feeling of helplessness. It is when we find it difficult to follow the teaching and directions given to us by Bhagavan, when there is discouragement and one falls again and again before the same vasana, feeling that there is no remedy for it. When one feels that there is no purpose here in this dream that helps or serves the greater or main purpose. What do you think of the topic?
It is the nature of the mind to find any excuse to avoid going inwards, because we are not yet willing to surrender ourselves completely. When we turn our attention within, the result of being self-attentive is that ego subsides. And if we are self-attentive, if our self-attentiveness is keen enough and steady enough, ego will subside and dissolve back into its source. Because we are not yet willing to surrender ourselves completely, we all face difficulties. That is, when we are trying to go within, our mind keeps on coming outwards. And it is very easy to allow ourselves to become dejected. Oh, I'm making so much effort, but it's not bearing any fruit. So we can lose heart. But the best remedy for this is to return again and again to Bhagavan's teachings, to think about his teachings, because his teachings are always encouraging us to turn within. And ultimately, it's a matter of how much we really want to surrender ourselves. That is, we all face difficulties because the very nature of our self as ego is to go outwards. So trying to turn this ego inwards is like swimming against the current. But if nobody can succeed in this path without perseverance. We have to keep on trying. And of course, to persevere, we need to motivate ourselves. So if we find that, or they said, if you find a lack of devotion and fervor, then we need to go back to Bhagavan's teachings, think about his teachings more, apply it to our present situation in life. And that will rekindle that, that devotion and fervor. So these are difficulties that we are all liable to face. But the thing is, we just shouldn't give up. If we give up, then we will enter a state of spiritual dryness, aridity, there'll be listlessness, apathy, and all these things. This is because of giving up. We need to keep on trying. It doesn't matter how many times we fail. We need to persevere in trying. As Bhagavan said, the only true sign of progress is perseverance, because perseverance is absolutely essential in this path. If we are really serious about this, if you really want anything in this world, you will not be put off by a few difficulties. That is, if you face difficulties, those difficulties will encourage you to try more. It's the same in this spiritual path. If we're really serious about going within, all the difficulties we face should motivate us to try more and more and more.
I like very much when sometimes we use the adjective sincerity, no?
Yes, yes.
It's like seriously, no?
Yeah.
But for me particularly, it's very important to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If you decide to go in this path with real sincerity with yourself,
yeah,
you don't let your arms go down,
yeah,
easily, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you can tell to yourself, okay, this afternoon I lie in the bed, no?
Yeah.
But tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I return again to try
Yes.
and try, no?
That is one other thing I wanted to say in this regard. Even if we go through a period of when we're not trying so hard, the very nature of our life in this world, life is always giving us blows in one way or another. So we, having started on this path, we can never really leave this path, because even if we seem to leave it for a while, when we face the difficulties of life, we will be reminded that really the only solution to all these things is eradication of ego. And the only way to eradicate ego is to persevere in this path. So, truly speaking, we cannot give up even if we want to. We may be able, it may seem that we've given up for a while, but we cannot really give up. And the more we are drawn to Bhagavan's path, the more difficult it is even to give up for a short while. Something will be driving us to go on trying.
Because what more stronger you go inside, no, stronger,
Yeah.
more intensity with more love, no, and you maybe cross a line in these grades to 180, no?
Yeah.
The ego responds in the same power, no?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And maybe with now there is a friend in the Yo Soy Tu Mismo school, no? That have pain in his body, no?
Yeah.
I'm sure that is how is in English Carlos coletazo, no? Of an
I don't know how to say, like backlash or something. I think.
So when it's the same of a metaphor analogy of the tiger, no? What is in the corner, no? You become to put me in this corner, and now my furious is in the same the same stronger that you can go inside to yourself.
Yeah. We can also see a similar thing in human warfare. Sometimes a very big, strong country will attack a small country, try to invade a small country. But if that strong country is ruled by a dictator, if the people of the army are not really motivated, they will not fight so well. Whereas the small country that is being invaded, they're fighting for their freedom. They're fighting for, soldiers are fighting for their wives and children and parents. And so they're so desperate, they'll fight ferociously. So sometimes even a small army can defeat a very big army just because of the motivation. It is like that in the spiritual path. We need to have such strong motivation.
Mm-hmm. As Asterix y Obelix, no? They find includes a drink special to resist, no?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Michael, can those feelings of dryness or listlessness or apathy or something can be a sign of not having understood Bhagavan's teachings in practical terms as deeply as I mean, of course we don't understand them totally.
Yes, but because we read Bhagavan's teachings, we think we've understood, but how deeply have we really understood? Take, for example, a simple teaching Bhagavan says, happiness is our real nature. There's not the least happiness in any of the things of the world. Have we understood that? Yes, of course, conceptually, it's not difficult to understand that. But can any of us say we've really understood that? If we had really understood that, our mind wouldn't go out. It would go only within. The very fact that our mind is still going outwards means that teaching hasn't really made a strong impression on us. So none of us have understood Bhagavan, and yet we may have understood conceptually, we may have got a basic grasp on the principles of Bhagavan's teachings, but how much impact has that made? That is why the practice is essential, because the more we put it into practice, the more Bhagavan's words will have impact on us, the more we will really see what he's saying, not just merely understand at a superficial conceptual level, but we will really see it from our own experience. And the more we see it, the stronger will be our motivation.
A real integration, no, of the teachings.
Yes. This is why in classical Advaita, they always talk about three things: Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. We need to do this Sravana. We need to pay careful attention to what Bhagavan is saying. That is, Sravana literally means listening, but it can also, by implication, it also means studying. So we need to really attend to what he's saying. Having attended to it, we will understand at least the words, but do we really understand the implication of those words? So not only do we have to listen to what Bhagavan is saying, pay close attention to what Bhagavan is saying, we also need to think deeply about it. We need to understand why he says like that. And we need to understand all the that is, we cannot understand any individual teaching of Bhagavan in isolation. We need to understand it in the context of his whole teaching. So where each individual teaching fits in, where it's all a part of the whole. So the more we understand, the more we get a comprehensive and coherent understanding of his teachings. That's why this manana is necessary. But to go deep in manana, we need great inner clarity, and that inner clarity comes only from the practice. So the more we pay close attention to Bhagavan's teachings, Sravana means hearing, but it doesn't mean just hearing like some background music. It implies we need to really pay close attention. So that the amount of attention we pay to what Bhagavan is saying, what does Bhagavan mean? We really need to try to understand what he means. So though we talk of three things, Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, there's no clear boundary between these. That is, if we are really doing the Sravana properly, the Manana will be going along, because we can't understand something merely by hearing it. We have to make sense of it. The Manana is the making sense of it. So even while we are paying close attention to Bhagavan's teachings, we're also trying to make sense of it. So the Sravana and Manana are going on hand in hand. And if we're really doing the Manana correctly, where should it direct our attention? What is Bhagavan teaching pointing at? They're pointing at us. So the Sravana will lead to Manana, and the Manana will lead to Nididhyasana. It's a seamless process.
And in Manana, for example, for me was very important not only to think and look for the implications of what we are trying to reflection about it.
Yeah.
Try to feel very intensive.
Yeah.
The power of these implications.
Yeah.
Because when I feel that really, really with my heart very open, immediately I detect a change in my motivation to go inside.
Yes. This is what I say. That is, we have to be extremely receptive, or Bhagavan's teachings won't have an impact on us. So many people read Bhagavan's teachings, but how much do they really understand? Because they're not sufficiently receptive. To be really receptive, we have to be attuned to that. That is, Bhagavan's teachings is like the transmission coming from a radio or a television station, how well the picture is received. If you've got an old television set, an old black and white television set, and you're trying to receive the signal, it'll, firstly, because it's an old set, it'll be a bit fuzzy, and it won't have sharp definition. So if you've got a poor receiver set, if we are a poor receiver set, Bhagavan's teachings will have some impact on us, but it won't have such a clear and precise impact. But if you have got a very modern television, the latest state-of-the-art television, it can pick up a high-definition signal. You get a very clear picture, very clear sound. That is because of the quality of the receiving set. So what Bhagavan is transmitting to us through his teachings, right? Now, what he's conveying through his teachings is always the same. But the difference is, how much are we actually in tune with that? Because only to the extent, if you've got in old days when we had radios, you have to get a clear signal, you've got to tune the station very precisely. If you go a little bit off to one side or the other, the sound won't be so clear. So we have to be attuned to Bhagavan's teachings. So we need to, firstly, we need to give up all our old, we need to be willing to see what Bhagavan is saying. And many of the things that Bhagavan says challenges our old beliefs and ideas. If we are very much attached to our old beliefs or ideas, we won't be able to understand Bhagavan's teaching. We need to be willing to let go. If Bhagavan is challenging our old beliefs or ideas, we must be willing to let go of those old ideas and beliefs in order to understand what he is saying and why he is saying it.
And
how to so we have a receiving set. How to improve this receiving set? We're all a bit like the very poor quality radio or old-fashioned TV. We're not receiving it very well. We need to become a high definition TV set to really to get the full impact of and full, precise, clear impact of Bhagavan's teachings. How we become a more refined receiving set is by paying close attention to his teachings, trying to make sense of them. That's a mana, trying to make sense of them, and most of all, putting them into practice. Because the more we put them into practice, that the more we turn our attention within, the more our mind is being bathed in the clarity of the pure awareness that we actually are, the pure awareness that shines in our heart as I am. So the more we attend to our own being, our own fundamental awareness, the more our mind is thereby clarified and purified. So we become better and better receiving sets.
I'm thinking,
and the better the receiving set, the more impact Bhagavan's teachings will have. And the more impact they have, the less we will be liable to getting dejected, to giving up and feeling or helplessness, hopelessness, or whatever.
No, I want to say that there is the antenna of the radio
Yes.
is in good connection.
Yes.
With the source, no, with yourself, with oneself.
Yes.
The clarity to detect the station is faster, no?
Yes. Yes.
And clearer, no?
Yes. All the equipment needs to be good. You need to have a good antenna to receive the signal properly. You need to have a well-tuned radio or TV set. So the whole, that is, I mean, we don't have to say, but the whole setup needs to be good. If you've got a very well-tuned TV set, but not a good means of receiving the signal, you won't get the signal clearly. So we need to be attentive. Our Sravana is like the antenna. We are paying close attention to what Bhagavan is saying. And then the signal that is coming through the radio waves or the television signal that is coming then needs to be processed and interpreted. If the TV is not correctly processing the information that is coming in, even though the reception is good, if the processing is poor, what appears on the screen will not be clear. So the processing it is similar to the manana, and the nididhyasana is the screen. You need a very high definition screen in order to get a high definition picture. So it's all these three are necessary, and each feeds into the other. Of course, in the case of the analogy, that doesn't apply. But in the case of Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, the more attentively we listen or we listen or pay attention to what Bhagavan is saying, the deeper our manana will automatically be. And the deeper our manana is, the deeper our practice will be. And the deeper our practice will be, the more closely we will be able to attend to and understand what Bhagavan is saying. So some people describe this Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana as a simple linear process. But first you need to pay close attention. You need to know what is being said. Then you need to do your manana in order to understand it. Then you need to do your nididhyasana, as if it's ABC, but it's not. It's an iterative process. Each one, that is, the Sravana feeds into the Manana feeds into nididhyasana, nididhyasana leads back into the Sravana, Manana. So all three are should be going on side by side, in unison.
Yes, I remember in the past when I received different trainings, no?
Yeah.
In the past, one time in the village of Madrid, no?
Yes.
A master put some people, I'm with them, and say, now we have 1 minute to listen the noises of this place, no? And all the people begin to listen. And when we finish, write in a paper what you listen, no? And the second time he say, okay, listen very more present and very more concentrate. And 3 times we do that. And at the third time, all the people write in his paper more things that they can listen, no?
Yeah.
And with the teaching of Bhagavan is the same, no? If you put all your attention and you are free of other thoughts and you are very open, and in this line, for example, the enthusiasm is very, very powerful ingredient to
yes, absolutely.
Because your heart is very, very open. For example, when I discovered Bhagavan teachings and I read the first book that I read with 15 years old, no, Ramana Gita, I have nervous, no, when I read, and I need to close the book and put in the floor because it's like I have a diamond in my hands, no.
Yes.
I never feel that with that intensity that I feel in that moment. And I know the power that it has to take you to the other level, no, in your nididhyasana.
Yes.
Finally, no?
Yes.
I don't know if you, for example, when you arrive to Ramana Ashram, no? And some people say you, this sadhvam, stay with Murugana, no? And you discover that, and the feelings of a young boy, in this moment, how put the power of your flame, no, in yourself.
Yes, yes.
Do you remember, no?
Yeah, well, yeah. For me, the first thing I read was Who Am I? When I read that, I was convinced this is the thing. This is what I've been looking for. And then I really wanted to understand it, how to put this into practice. So I was reading so many books that were available, but none of them seemed to explain it properly until I came across Sadhu Om's book, Bhagavan Sri Ramana. Actually, I've met Sadhu Om before I came across his book. And once I read his book, I was convinced, yes, this is the way. This is so. Then naturally, I got drawn to Sadhu Om. And the more I was with him, the more I found that he was able to express Bhagavan's teachings. Whatever question I asked, he was able to give very clear answers, very appropriate answers. And as time went on, I found, because I was thinking about these things more, I was understanding and trying to put them into practice, I was gradually understanding more and more. And the more I was understanding, the deeper the questions I was asking. And the deeper the questions I asked, the deeper the answers he gave.
Mm-hmm.
In that regard,
so yes, in those days, there was so much enthusiasm, so much excitement about, as you say, you found a great treasure. Mm. As soon as I read Who Am I understood, oh, this is what I've been looking for.
Like explorer, no? That find the treasure of in the mountain, no?
Yes.
That was my feeling.
Yes. Bhagavan himself has sung in Aksharamlai, Teda Dutranal Tiruvaral Nidiyaha Tiakum Te Tarol Arunachala. That is great treasure of divine grace found without seeking. Remove the delusion of my mind or the activity of my mind or the rising of ego. That ahatiyakum can be interpreted in several ways, but they all amount to the same thing. But that's a beautiful description. Great treasure of divine grace found without seeking. How did we stumble across this? What a great good fortune it is to have come to Bhagavan.
When we, for example, do Sravana, or we hear the teachings or read the teachings, because usually some people like to read a lot or something, like to continue reading, or moving to another book or the next video or the next thing. No, so it's better to stay with just a simple verse, for example, and
yes.
So slowly reading, dwell on that verse for hours.
If we read a lot, our reading will be relatively superficial. We'll be reading on the surface. Whereas if we select just a few choice books, the original writings of Bhagavan, Uladu, Napadu, Upadeshundya, Nana, Atma-vichara, Arunachastuti Panchakam. In all these come to just a few hundred verses, maybe about 250 verses, the original verses of Bhagavan. And Nana is just 20 paragraphs. It's relatively little Bhagavan has written. But if we focus on these works and read them again and again and try to put into practice what Bhagavan is saying there, that is we will learn far more in that way than reading hundreds and hundreds of books. You can study all the Upanishads, all the commentaries on the Upanishads, the sub-commentaries on them, all the other books, and you can acquire a vast knowledge, but your knowledge will be on the surface. It won't be deep. It's like trying to dig a well in many places. 5 feet here, 5 feet there, 5 feet there. You won't get much water that way. If you really seriously want water, dig your well in one place. So just a few works like Bhagavan's original writings, that is sufficient. We don't have to read anything else. In fact, it's much better to read a few really good books than reading a lot, because if you read a lot, there's so many different ideas there, but are all those ideas necessary? That is, you could fill a library with books written on Advaita philosophy. But are all the ideas in those books, are they all really practical ideas? Are they all really useful? No, they're not, because they're written for different purposes. Like Bhagavan says beautifully in Uladunaptu Anubandham, that is one idea that is expressed in many of the old texts, is that for Vijnani, Agamya and Sanchita will cease to exist, but the Prarabdha will remain for the duration of the body. Even Adi Shankara has written this in his commentaries on the Prasthanatraya, on the Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. What Bhagavan has to say about that, Bhagavan doesn't criticize what Shankara says. He simply points out that and he doesn't refer specifically to Shankara because so many people have, this idea is very prevalent. Bhagavan simply says, this is an answer given to the questions of others. So because when Shankara was writing that Prasthanatraya Bhashya, he was trying to convince many people that this is the correct interpretation of Vedanta. So he had to give explanations that would suit people at their level. That's why he said certain things that are a diluted truth. It's not really true. Yes, we can say, yes, so long as we see Vijnani as a body, for that body there seems to be a prarabdha. That is why it's said like that. But Vijnani is not the bodies. So for Vijnani, there is no prarabdha. So Bhagavan put it beautifully there. It's a reply to the questions of others. So a lot of what you will find in the Advaitic texts are replies to the questions of others. So such explanations need not, they're not for us, they're meant for others. So what is really useful for a spiritual aspirant is given by Bhagavan in just a few works, in his own original writings. All that is necessary for a serious aspirant is given to us by Bhagavan. And what he gives us is extremely practical.
It's like, Michael, in that paragraph, I forgot the number. I have it here. So, paragraph 8 of Nar, when where it's written, supposedly it's not sure if that was written by Bhagavan, right?
There are 3 sentences were later interpolated. Yes,
exactly. What about those 3 sentences? Is there confusion as to what that was written by Bhagavan, or was it added late afterwards?
I think it is quite possible Bhagavan gave that answer. But that is a perfect example of an answer given to the questions of others, because someone must have raised an objection. But what about the breath doesn't end when a person goes to sleep? We can see the sleeping body breathing. Then Bhagavan, if someone asks like that, it is clear they're not understanding the basic teaching of Bhagavan, but in sleep there is no body at all. It's only in the view of others that the body seems to be sleeping. In the view of the sleeper, where is anybody? Do we experience our body lying on the bed, snoring or whatever? No, we are completely oblivious to the body. So because someone asked from that perspective, Bhagavan gave a reply that was suitable to satisfy that person. Yes, it is by God's will that the breath remains in the body, so that others shouldn't think the body is dead. That is
a concession.
That is a perfect example of a reply given to the questions of others. That's what Bhagavan means when he said about this prarabdha remaining for Vijnani. Yes, even Bhagavan could in certain circumstances give such a reply, because as Bhagavan said, teachings must be according to the taught. When Yogananda, that Swami who went to America and started the Self-Realization Fellowship and wrote a book, Autobiography of a Yogi, when he asked Bhagavan what teachings are to be given for the uplift of the masses, Bhagavan simply said, teachings cannot be given en masse. Teaching needs to be according to the taught. So different teachings are appropriate to people at different levels of spiritual development.
And some people need to confuse the level that they believe that are properly for them. And sometimes, no, for example, with devotees of Bhagavan, of course, no, go to Aurobindo and after with him and go to Aurobindo after 10 years with Bhagavan. Too many, no?
Yeah. So people, that is just because people have the great good fortune of being in Bhagavan's physical presence doesn't mean that they were spiritually mature. Bhagavan himself says in Guru Vachika Kovai, he uses the analogy of the shadow at the foot of the lamp. He said, just like the shadow remains unmoving at the foot of the lamppost, the ignorance of some remains remains without being diminished, in spite of them living for years till they grow old in the presence of the Jnana Guru. Of course, nobody who was in Bhagavan's presence was not benefited by that. But how much we are benefited by that depends on how receptive we are to his teachings. So if we're 10 years with Bhagavan and then go away to Aurobindo, all due respect to Aurobindo, but his teachings are completely different to Bhagavan's. So there were, as you say, there were people, most notably Kapali Sastri, who was a close follower of Aurobindo. A close follower of Kavyaganta and supposedly a devotee of Bhagavan. And he wrote this Satdarshan Bhashya. Before writing Satdarshan Bhashya, he'd already gone to Aurobindo. Even Kavyaganta went to Aurobindo, but he didn't stay there for long, but he met Aurobindo. And Kapali Sastri became an out-and-out follower of Aurobindo. That shows how much he's understood Bhagavan's teachings. If he really understood Bhagavan's teachings, he wouldn't have been attracted by Aurobindo. So, but
how you say before, intellectually maybe they understand, but
at a certain level. But even intellectually, if you read Satdarshan Bhashya, his understanding of Bhagavan's teaching, he argues in one place in his introduction to his to Satdarshan Bhashya, he uses a classical analogy that is used by Shankara and so many others, the clay and pot. That is an analogy like the golden ornament analogy used by Bhagavan. Clay is the substance, pot is the form. So how that analogy is used by Shankara and Bhagavan and others is to show that the substance alone is real, the forms are unreal. In fact, in verse 13 of Uludu Napadu, when Bhagavan used that analogy, he didn't use the pot and gold, pot and mud and pot analogy. He used the gold and ornament analogy, which is a parallel analogy. It means the same. He says, but the gold alone is real. Does the ornaments, all the many ornaments are unreal. Do they exist apart from gold, which alone is real? That is, but obviously he's not, when he says gold is real, he's not really meaning gold is real. That's for the sake of an analogy. Relative to the ornaments, the gold is real. Because the ornaments are impermanent. The same piece of gold but today is a bangle. Tomorrow could be made into a necklace, or into a ring, or into a tiara, or some other ornament. So the forms are impermanent and therefore unreal. Relatively speaking, the substance is real, but that analogy is used to show, I mean, their gold is analogous to our real nature, which is the substance. So the substance is real, the forms are unreal. That is the conclusion of Advaita. This is what Shankara is arguing, what Bhagavan is arguing, what all true Advaitins will argue. But not, the names and forms are unreal. The substance, namely Satchidananda, alone is real. But Kapali Sastri, using that, referring to that pot and clay and pot analogy, he says there is the substantial truth of the pot is the clay. The formal truth of the pot is the form of the pot. You cannot understand a pot without understanding both the substance and the form. You need to get a comprehensive understanding. You need to understand both, and both are real. Therefore, it is in that analogy, Brahman is the substance, the world of names and forms of like the pot, analogous to the pot. So what Kapali Sastri concludes by saying, it is therefore false and futile to say that the Brahman alone is real, the substance Brahman alone is real, and the forms, the world, which is the names and forms, is unreal. Both make up, you need to understand the substance and the form. Then only you get a complete understanding. That's his argument, but that is completely against Bhagavan's teachings, completely against all of Advaita teachings. Was he not able to understand it? No, he could understand it very well, but he didn't like it. So he was arguing for his own, because he didn't want to accept that this world is unreal. And when Kavyaganta translated that verse 13 of Uludunapadu into Sanskrit, very conveniently, he omitted the word unreal, which comes at least 2 or 3 times in that verse. He omitted it because if he puts that there, that's against their philosophy, because their philosophy is that this world is real as such. So it's not that they couldn't, of course they had the intellect to understand what Bhagavan was saying, but they didn't want to understand because they wanted to believe that the world is real. They wanted to believe that the jnani retains his individuality. So if we are really to follow the Guru, we must first be willing to accept his teaching. If we're not even willing to accept his teachings, we may be devotees, but we're not disciples.
Yes, and it's incredible how for example, no, when I watch the meeting that you have with Swami Siva Prayananda, no?
Yes, Siva Prayananda, yes.
Yes. When he discovered, no, the magnitude of Bhagavan's teachings, no?
Yes.
How difficult is to get rid of the position of what we are in the world, in the front of my vision of the traditional Advaita and all of that, include staying, how very colloquial, usually said people, if Christ appear in front of you, you don't want to get rid of my vision, no? My vision, my perspective, my idol, no? In finally, a spiritual idol, no?
Yes.
And when I watch this meeting, I can see in his eyes the discovering of yes, that's no. But finally, I have my function. I continue defending my vision, my perspective. Yes, it's very good, but no.
Yes. People are at different levels, so we need to. I mean, everyone is at the level appropriate to them.
So but Bhagavan's teachings include all the levels.
It includes all the levels, but the Bhagavan is constantly pushing us to a deeper level.
Yes, but respect all the time include that people who are follow other.
Yes.
Oh, and say you want to stay here, stay, and if you want to make pranayama or whatever you want to do, hey, but you can stay in this. No problem, no.
Bhagavan of his own accord would never have given any teachings to anyone. It's only because people asked that he gave his teachings. If anyone wants to do pranayama, yes, let them do pranayama. But if they want to know how to be rid of this miserable state of ego that I've now found myself in, then he would tell his real teachings.
And the difference between that and the traditional Advaita and other lines of spirituality is sometimes with a little mouth they say you can do other things, but they don't believe it. Really.
Yes.
And finally, if you go with them, you must to make these niyamas and you must to read these books better first, and after that.
Is that Michael?
Bhagavan himself said sometimes when people said, "Oh, why doesn't Bhagavan give other teachings?" Bhagavan said, firstly, Bhagavan said, "What else am I to teach? I teach what I know. This is all I know." Sometimes Bhagavan put it like that, so humbly. But at other times he said, even if I teach other things, supposing someone comes to me and I tell them to do japa. He didn't even say if they come to me. He used to say it always in a very impersonal way. If someone goes to a guru and the guru tells them to do japa, they will do japa for a number of years. And they will find after a number of years that they're not getting what they're looking for. So they'll come back to the guru. And then the guru will say, okay, japa is not sufficient. You must do dhyana. And then they do dhyana. And after some time, they come back to the guru and they're not satisfied. The guru has to say something more. Bhagavan says, why to give all these teachings, but sooner or later, you're going to have to tell the disciple, this isn't sufficient. Why not tell them the real thing from the beginning? Let them take it or leave it. If they don't take it, then it's appropriate to encourage them in whatever other path they're following.
That's probably because some people believe that it's a process that you first start by doing japa and you cannot go any further until
they're right. But how do we know how much japa and how much dhyana we've done in previous life? The very fact that we've come to Bhagavan means that whatever was necessary to lead us to this point, we've already done. So now we need to think about moving forward. So once we've come to Bhagavan, how do we move forward? By turning back within, as taught by Bhagavan.
Well, anyway, as Sadhguru says in the book, is that they gain the benefit of running out of japa and dhyana by getting tired of practices.
Yes.
What they gain out of it.
Yeah.
They go.
Whatever. The very fact we've come to Bhagavan means we've gained the benefit of doing japa and dhyana and all these other things. Having gained the benefit, we don't have to go back to those. We need to move forwards.
For example, sometimes, is like Carlos, I understand, said you need to give a little step down, atrás, backwards to pass forward to yourself, no?
Yeah.
In the self-inquiry, no? For example, no, in Yo Soy Tu Mismo, some people have a very interesting in look some parts of his mind, no, of the darkness and all of that. And we include, for example, in this week we have a practice, no, to see this question of the victim, no. But in the middle of the practice, say, oh, who is the victim? Who feel that is a victim in his life? Who look to yourself. Look to this who say that, no, and it's like a trap, no, like a trap, no. You feel that you want that, okay, but finally you can feel like a japa, no, like Bhagavan said to Kavyakanta, no. Look to the source of the japa.
Yes.
Prove that. Prove. And what is that? Here is no mind. Here is no ego. Here is no that. Okay. And how much you try to go to the source, finally all the practices begin to. You don't need that, no. You prefer to stay in yourself, no. In oneself. Sorry.
And you mentioned the analogy of the clay and pot, Michael, and gold and the ornaments. Can those analogies be interpreted also as that we also are enchanted by the forms? I mean, we admire the forms of gold and clay and etc. and pot, etc. And we overlook the
substance.
Substance.
Yes.
Oh, it's a nice bracelet or a necklace, etc. But we don't see the gold. It actually is just like.
Yes. That is in the case of the mud pot. Supposing you go to a market and you buy a mud pot. Why are you buying the mud pot? Because that mud pot has a certain functionality. So it's for the function it's not for the substance. If the mud pot gets broken, you don't keep those the broken pieces. You discard them because they're no longer of any use. They no longer serves a function. So because our minds are outward going, we are only concerned with these external things, not with the substance. What is the substance? The substance is that our own being, that fundamental awareness I am. Such it is the substance. But so long as our minds are outward going, we're not concerned about the substance. We're concerned about the forms and what use we can make of those forms.
And going back to the question, for example, in the question it is said something about dryness and listlessness, etc. For example, when we are starting on the path and our discernment is not as sharp as we would like, and we need to, another teaching that Bhagavan gives us is that we are not this body, and none of the 5 sheets.
Yes.
If our discernment is not very good, one of the tools that we have available is the 3 avastas, the discernment that we cannot be this body based on the 3.
Yes.
But if we are not, our discernment, our intellect is not as sharp, and we cannot infer that so clearly yet.
Yes.
We cannot convince ourselves so much as to practice more. Further, because we may come to a standstill or a period of apathy because we are not able to go further in that sense. So, and our practice seems to be dry at the same time. So it's like at some point we have to come out of it, obviously, because as you said, Ravana, Manan, and Nidhyasana, they are all influencing each other. So yes, by doing some other thing, somehow we are getting out of it slowly. Gradually. But when our discernment is not as sharp and our practice seems to be the same, that's when we may feel, or at times, affected or.
That is why I say, if we are feeling what is described here as spiritually dry or arid, this is when we need to go back to Bhagavan's teachings, to think carefully about them, to apply them to our present situation, to see that this world, there is no happiness in this world. This world is maybe a mirage of happiness, but what happiness actually is there in this world? So we need to think about these things and apply them to our present situation.
Yeah, just because the verses are not speaking directly about the things we're living, it doesn't mean that they are not talking about.
Well, if we think about what Bhagavan is talking about in all the verses of Uludunapadu and other such works, it's all about our own, it's about our experience as ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it may not be how we interpret our experience, but Bhagavan is giving us an alternative view, a different way in which we can interpret our experience.
And you convince more, no?
Yes, yes.
Because in these moments, as you are very, very arid, very down, you recover the enthusiasm with reading Bhagavan's teachings to exit of these difficulties.
Yes.
And some people, sí, Carlos.
Go ahead.
And some people use the Bhagavan's teachings sometimes to protect this sad and this fear, no, to avoid feel that, no.
Yes.
And don't take the understanding to apply how we say before at Nididhyasana, no.
Yes.
Because you are only read to calm, no, and feel better, no, because you think that you read the truth, but you don't do anything with that.
Yeah.
And you don't reflect profoundly with that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's can be a kind of drug too, with a bad use.
Yes. If you're floating on the surface, if you're not really paying close attention to what Bhagavan is saying, and then therefore not really deeply understanding it, you're just floating on the surface. It's not really.
Yes.
Bhagavan's teachings are extremely practical. We need to understand why Bhagavan says what he says. What is the practical implication of what Bhagavan is saying? And we need to put that into practice. So if ever we feel dejected or listless or apathetic or lacking in devotion and fervor, we need to go back to Bhagavan's teachings to rekindle that enthusiasm. That is, Bhagavan's teachings have a twofold function. Firstly, they explain to us the nature of things and how to attain it. They also motivate us. So if we feel we're lacking in motivation, where are we to turn? We have to turn back to Bhagavan's teachings because they alone can rekindle our enthusiasm.
How about singing? Michael singing, for example, Salbom composed many songs. That obviously was...
Yes, but if we understand the meaning of the songs, his songs are full of Bhagavan's teachings. It's all connected.
Yeah, right. For the meaning, knowing the meaning of the songs and singing with openly, open your heart to get fully impression of the song, the lyrics, the meaning of the songs.
Yes.
Obviously, done with love. Obviously,
with love. Yes, of course.
Just for the sake of singing.
Yes.
Won't do any good, right? But
yes.
It's just like the japa and puja and dhyana. If it's done with love, to a certain extent.
If we don't do with love, then we haven't understood the meaning of those songs, because those songs were born out of the intense love that Sadhu had for Bhagavan and for following his teachings and surrendering himself completely to Bhagavan. So we can understand those songs only to the extent to which our heart is open to such love.
Yes. How you say in so many times, no? Sadhguru never finished to be a child, no?
Yes, yes. He was always Bhagavan's child. Bhagavan for him was Mata, Pita, Guru, Devam. Mother, Father, God, and Guru.
He said that, I remember in an article of paramount importance of self-attention one time, that the fact of no in person to Bhagavan, no?
Yes.
Maybe was not the best for him, but in other way, I think that is the most. How you say before, no? If you are in the sensibility or the capacity to the real reception to that, no? If it's not, too many people go there and the same day go out, no? And say, this is an old man, all the time quiet and don't say anything. I was worrying.
Yeah, so in the end, there is no secret other than practice and continue reading and thinking and manana. The manana should be going, I mean, as long as we're not practicing Atma-vichara, obviously, the manana should be constantly going on in our minds,
because
right?
The manana is what constantly reminding us and encouraging us to go within.
And
if we are not going within, we are not doing the manana correctly.
No. Because sometimes happens to me, certainly, reading some verses that I cannot get out anything of, or it's hard. It's like there seems to be something really, like I read it, I ponder it, I think over and over in it, and sometimes it's like I can seem to find the true implication, for
yes
more depth in that verse,
yes.
And sometimes it's like I go back and to that verse, and it's I try to give up for some time, and I turn within, and of course, I mean, sometimes you get some more clarity.
Yes. If ever we come across parts of Bhagavan's teachings that we're not able to understand, we shouldn't be too concerned about it, because if we continue with the practice, continue going deeper within, the things that are not clear to us now will become clear to us in future.
They're clear as long as I read one of your articles, or I see it seems clear.
Yes.
But when I say, okay, I'm going to try to put some order in my thoughts and my mind, I see it's not that clear.
Yes.
But when I hear it, it's clear.
Yes.
So that's an indication that obviously I would be able to put some words to express it with words, and but it just takes some more practice and
yes.
It's no.
The deeper we go in the practice, the clearer Bhagavan's teachings become. And the more we're able to see not only the surface meaning, but all the implication that underlies that.
And also to overcome those feelings of dryness, etc. It's good to be aware that we are the obstacle.
Yes.
We are self the solution, but the obstacle also. Nothing is preventing us from going further. Actually,
the problem there, how I understand Michael before, is when you let these feelings go away, go forward, more timed than minutes and hours a day. If you let these feelings take his place in you, you can go down, 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 and after is like a mountain, like a Himalaya, to return to your no.
That is if feelings of dejection or dryness or aridity or apathy or whatever, if those feelings arise in us, we shouldn't feed those feelings. We should divert the mind away. We should seek to re-encourage ourselves. So if we return to Bhagavan's teachings and think about his teachings, that will dispel all these feelings of dryness and so on. And again will be, enthusiasm will return to us.
I remember when I was a child, no? And discover pegamento, how is in English, Carlos?
Glue.
Glue. I discovered a new glue no, in this moment that is a very super glue, no? And I play with that and I put some of this liquid in my finger and put together, not two fingers. In the first moments, I can move it. But if I stay 2 or 3 minutes with this glue, I need to take my other hand and make to no. And with this arid and depression and these feelings are the same. If you let them to stay and take body, no, it's like a very super glue in your mind.
Because this is the nature of vasana. The more we allow ourselves to be swayed by any vasana, the stronger that vasana will become. So if I'm always thinking, oh, I'm not able to do this, it's difficult, I'm unfit for this and everything, we are just strengthening those thoughts. Why give room to those thoughts in the first place? If we return to Bhagavan's teachings, that will rekindle the enthusiasm. So yes, dejection can come to any of us, but we shouldn't dwell on that, because by dwelling on it, we are just reinforcing it. So we need to be very intelligent in our application of Bhagavan's teachings. We need to, when the wrong type of thoughts arise, we need to quickly dispel them by returning to Bhagavan's teaching, thinking about his teachings, and then there'll be no room for these negative thoughts to arise. Because Bhagavan gives us so many assurances. He says in the 12th paragraph of Nana, just like what is caught in the jaws of a tiger can never return or never escape, those who are caught in the glance of Guru's grace will surely be saved by him and never forsaken. When we read that should encourage us so much. And then he says, Eninum Guru Kartya Varipadi Tabaradu Nedikavendam. That is, after giving us such a great assurance, he then says, nevertheless, it is necessary to follow without fail the path the Guru has shown, or to follow in accordance with the path the Guru has shown. So we must play Bhagavan will certainly save us, but we have to play our small part, because as Bhagavan often said, grace is not something up in heaven that's going to come and descend down, fall on our head. Grace is there in our heart. So grace has to work through us. So our effort to turn within, our effort to surrender ourselves to him is itself the working of his grace. Some people say, which is necessary, effort or grace. That's the people who ask like that haven't understood the nature of grace, how grace works. Grace works through our effort. Grace is what motivates us to make the effort to turn within, to make the effort to persevere.
and make the efforts to don't let go with the vasanas, no?
To
resist,
not to get carried away by vasanas that are going to be detrimental.
Yes. I like very much one thing that Carlos said 2 or 3 weeks, or no, maybe 1 month ago, speaking with Sanjay, no, about the tremendous importance to pray to Bhagavan in these moments, to speak with him in our heart in this moment, and pray to him, give me the power, give me the passion. I am impotent. I can with that for myself. Only you can to save me, no?
Yes.
Did you, Michael or Carlos, pass any time in feel this pray with very power, and you feel that you are listening, metaphoric, no, for Bhagavan in your experience, no? You or Carlos experience some moment. Do you remember when you pray with very intensity to?
Yeah. Prayer isn't just the words. Prayer is the feeling behind those words. And prayer, when it comes, prayer is itself the working of grace in our heart. To really pray wholeheartedly with sincerity, that comes only with grace. Grace is the yearning in our heart, the yearning to give ourselves wholly to him. Give ourselves wholly to him means subside back into our source, into our own being, which is where he is ever shining as I am. He is our being. He is our source.
When it's not possible for you because you are very desperated, no? Or very sad or very depressed, no? Maybe you can't go to the source, but you can try to with words.
I mean, words are a vehicle of prayer, but prayer is the yearning. And sometimes that feeling of dejection can actually be very good, because it can, if it gives rise to that real wholehearted prayer, that is good.
Yeah, because you cannot fake.
So even the negative things can be made positive. If that's what I was saying earlier, we need to be very intelligent in our application of the teachings, because the mind will try and distract us in so many ways. But we need to outwit this mind, so to speak. We need to outwit ourselves by always clinging to Bhagavan's teachings, always praying to him, always leaning more and more on him.